Hey everybody, this is your friend and brother Mark Moore Jr. and let me welcome you to another session right here from Young Leaders University. I am so excited that you have decided to become a part of what we're doing here, and I know that you're going to hear and learn some things that are going to help you go from where you are to where you're supposed to be. I want to jump right into today's masterclass because this is one of my favorite subjects to teach about, because this is Growth 101. Now, I'm going to tell you now, I'm so used to typing that I forgot how to write on the board. So I need you all to take the judgment out of your eyes and take the judgment out of your spirit today. And we're going to make sure we put the words and the notes on the screen so that you can get it. But I certainly want to talk to you about this because all of us, please hear me and hear me well, regardless of the industry that we're in, all of us want to or should want to achieve some level or some degree of growth. Okay. Now, this is not Facebook Live. This is not Instagram. So I'm going to be a lot more open and a lot more direct with us here in Young Leaders University to really kind of show you how we do what we do. So to establish credibility, I think you know by now that growth is something that I am extremely passionate about. Okay. If you've followed our story at all, you know that the Young Leaders Conference, which is my magnus opus, if you will, that's the greatest thing God has helped us do so far. That is nothing more than a picture of growth, okay? You've heard me tell this story so many times. We started off with 50 people in a meeting room at the Doubletree, and God has blessed us to grow in a few years from that Doubletree meeting room to convention centers and 5,000 people from around the world. And, 2020's conference is going to be in the arena and in the convention center. And all of that is only possible because of growth. So I want to give you some major keys to growing your brand. And it's important that we understand as we start that what we're talking about today, listen to me carefully, are principles. All right. What you need to know, please get this, is that principles apply across color lines. Principles apply across denominational lines. Principles apply across the board. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who your audience is. A principle is a principle that, if applied properly, can lend results. So I want to give us some growth principles that will translate again across the board, regardless of what you do. If you're in ministry, principles will work. If you are in business, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever you do, principles will work. So let's talk about some principles. Let's jump into it that will help you grow your brand. That's right. I said the B word. Let me dismiss the tension. It is not a bad word. All right. So many of us, especially those of us that come from a tradition of faith, some of us have been taught or led to believe that branding is almost a bad word, okay? And that by engaging in brand activities, we've sometimes been led to believe that that is taking faith out of the equation, or that's, taking God out of the equation. And I want to tell you that nothing could be further from the truth. Let's go to work now, all right? What is a brand? Let's talk about it. Simply put, I need you to get this as your working definition. A brand is defined, hear me, as your customer's overall perception of your business. Okay. Some of you are saying, wait a minute, I don't have a store. I don't have t-shirts. I don't have customers. I'm in ministry. I'm a service provider. Let me help you. Anything you do that involves anybody else implies that you have customers. You might not need your customers to do what someone else needs their customers to do, but all of us have customers. Okay. And your brand, hear me, is your customer's overall perception of your business. I like the way that Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos says it. He says, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. Okay. So it's important that we understand, hear me and hear me well, that our brand goes ahead of us. Okay. It's so crucial to our understanding that you remember that people meet your brand before they ever shake your hand. All right. People meet your brand before they ever come up to you and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I love what you're doing. So with that in mind, think of it in these terms. Your brand is your reputation. Okay. What are you known for? What ideas and what images come to people's mind when they think about you and what it is that you do? Okay. All of this is your brand. It's your reputation. It's how people experience you. So if we're talking about growing your brand, if we're talking about growing the ideas associated with what you do and who you are. Let's start with a very, 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 very unfortunate truth that some of us want to deny, some of us want to avoid, some of us want to find a way around it, want to find a tool or a strategy to avoid it. But you got to understand and deal with the truth of the matter, and that is growing your brand is not an overnight process. Did you hear what I said? Growing your brand is not an overnight process. Don't get it twisted. You can post one video and go viral. You can post one post and it get retweeted or shared or liked by the right person, and a lot of people can see it, but that's not the same thing as brand growth. Okay? Now, what we got to understand, I want to give you these keys. I want to give you these principles here, but you got to understand that no success principle, no class, no teaching, no training, nothing will work if you won't. All right. So if you're going to grow, you got to be willing to put the consistent work in to the process. So let's jump into it. Let's jump into it. Because the first key that I have to give you if you want to grow, please hear this. First thing I want to give you, want to grow, is you have to, number one, write this down. You got to discover your purpose, and you have to answer the question, why do I want to grow? Okay. You've got to discover your purpose. Let's put it right here. You've got to discover your purpose and answer the question, why do I want to grow? Okay. Why do I want to grow? I hope you're asking yourself right now, why do I want to grow? Let me tell you, if the answer to the question, why do I want to grow? If your answer is because so-and-so is growing, you need to get out the game now. Hear me. If the answer to the question, why do I want to grow, is because of what somebody else is doing, or somebody else's story, or somebody else's success, or somebody else's record, you need to get out the game immediately. Hear what I'm saying? You've got to ask, what is the purpose behind what I'm trying to grow? Okay. What is the purpose behind what I'm trying to grow? Now, let's go over this real quick, because some of you are saying, well, wait a minute, I've got this idea, I've got this vision, I've got this brand, I've got this product in my mind, I've got a service or a business or whatever it is, and I really need to evaluate, why am I trying to grow this? Let me give you 4 questions that you need to ask yourself when you're trying to identify and define your purpose. All right. Number one. Let's go up here. Number one. Why do I exist? Okay. Why do I exist? Number one, why do I exist? You've got this idea, you've got this product, you got this service. Why does it exist? What is it here for? Okay. Number 2, what differentiates you? Okay. Ask yourself, what is it that makes me different? Okay. I'm going to talk more about competition in a second. Okay. What differentiates you? What differentiates you? Number 3, what problem do you solve? Okay. I'm here. I've got a brand. I've got a product. I've got a business. What product do I solve? Or what problem do I solve, rather? Because if you have a brand that's not solving a problem, you have a brand that you're going to struggle to grow. Okay. Think about your life for a moment. All right. Everything that you support, everything that you build your life around solves a problem in your life. Okay. Everything. Some of y'all, you love Starbucks because Starbucks solves a problem for you, right? I can't get my day started until I've had my coffee. Some of you love your job, or you love the place that you work because that place of employment solves a problem for you. As you're looking at your brand, your business, your conference, your event, the thing you're trying to grow, your ministry, what is the problem that you're solving for other people? Here's number 4. Why should people care? Why should they care? Remember, we're trying to identify and discover purpose. You discover purpose in part by asking yourself the questions, why do I exist? What do I do? Who am I here for? Number two, what differentiates me? There are 1,000 other people that do what I do. Here's how I do it different and how I do it better. Number three, what problems do I solve? And then number four, why should people care? Now, I know you're at home, you're in your office, you're wherever you are, and I hope you're asking these questions now because you're going to need these ideas, these answers to form, hear me and hear me well, the foundation of your brand. Your secret to growth is not a secret. It's found in the answers to these four questions, right? You cannot grow. Let's just be clear. There is no cookie cutter. There is no hack. There is no workaround. You cannot grow a brand that you can't explain why it exists. You cannot grow a brand that you cannot show the world, yourself, your team, your customers, how it's different from everybody else's. You cannot grow a brand that you can't identify the problem that it solves. And you certainly can't grow a brand if you can't convince people why they need to care about what you're doing and how you do it. Okay? So these answers, hear me and hear me well, are going to inform how you attack the problem, the challenge, the opportunity of growth. Now, I like the way that leadership expert Simon Sinek talks about it. He wrote a book entitled Start With Why, and he lists what he calls the golden circle, all right? He lists the golden circle, and one of the things that he emphasizes is that it's so important, we're talking about purpose here, that you start with your why. Everybody in the world is focused on the what. Think about this. Every time you get in your car and cut your radio on, you're hearing what's. Every commercial is a what, okay? Buy this, shop here, order this, come to this, register for this, join this. Everybody in your world has a why. And here's the thing. Your target audience soon becomes immune to hearing whys, or rather hearing what's, okay? They get sick of hearing what. Do this is a what. Go here is a what. Come here is a what. They're tired of hearing what's. What will stand or cause you to stand out is your ability, hear me, to emphasize a why. Now, again, this is Young Leaders University. So I'm not just going to give you stuff that I've discovered without helping you apply it. So when you look at these questions for me, I can easily highlight answers to these questions and connect it to the growth that you've seen in Young Leaders Conference and the brand that is Young Leaders, okay? When it comes to why do I exist, we attack that question from the standpoint of we exist, Young Leaders Conference exists because this generation needs a safe place to come and make necessary connections that will advance them in ministry, media, and the marketplace. That's why we're here. What differentiates us from everybody else? There are 1,000,001 conferences for everything and for everybody. But what makes us different is that you cannot find the unique merging of generations that we have at YLC anywhere else. You cannot find an atmosphere with this many all-stars that's focused more on collaboration than competition. I'm showing you how this works right now. I'm selling it to you right now. Some of you, you've gone to other conferences and you felt small because people were so busy trying to measure you up and size you up that they weren't willing to help you. That's what you're going to find different at Young Leaders. Y'all see what I'm saying? What problems do I solve? We solve the problem at YLC of you having the feeling and knowing that there's got to be more than what you've seen, but not having the access and the resources to make it happen. We solve that problem. Because we're going to give you the tools when you get here. You follow me? To transform yourself from where you are to where you want to be. Why should they care? Why should they care? Let's put it in my context. The way we answer why should they care is this. You can't afford to waste another year wandering, trying to find resources that are available to you in August of 2020. You guys see what I did there? Every one of these questions you've got to be able to answer if you want to be able to grow. Y'all with me? Number one, you have to discover your purpose and you have to ask the question, why do I want to grow? Here's number two. Let's go deeper here because the number two thing I want to give you in this particular masterclass, Growth 101, you got to discover purpose. Here's number two. Let's go here. Some of y'all not going to like it, but it is what it is. You have to know your Here's a word. Lord help us. See, I told you the autocorrect would have fixed that for me. But let's try it this way. You have to know your competition. Okay? You have to know your competition. Here's the question that revolves around. Who else does what I do? Trying to help somebody grow here. You really want to grow your church. You really want to grow your business, your brand, your event, your conference. You want to grow the sales of your book. You want to grow the sales of your master classes. You have to be clear. Hear me. Who else does what I do? Who else does what I do? Now, let me pause here because I don't want you to think that we're guilty of contradicting ourselves. When I talk about competition, let me be very clear. If God has given you a God idea, you have no competition. Hear me. If God has given you a God idea, you have no real competition because even though there are people doing what you do, they can't do it the way you do it. You follow what I'm saying to you? So when I talk about competition, I'm not speaking in terms of you trying to stop somebody or outdo somebody or outshine somebody. I'm simply speaking of people that are in the same sphere that you're in. All right. I'll use me again. I'm a conference host. Again, it's a crowded field, right? Everybody, some of y'all have conferences. Some of y'all watching this right now have 2 and 3 conferences that you do. So you certainly understand what I'm saying. So what I want you to understand is that if you're going to grow what it is that you do, if you're going to grow what it is that you do, you got to be clear about who else is in your lane. Now, you got to run your own race, but you got to know who's running next to you. Now, let's go deeper here for a moment because it's so important that you do not fall into the trap of trying to imitate what your competitors are doing. Okay? It's so important that you don't fall into the trap of trying to duplicate what's already been done, but you should be aware of what other people in your sphere are doing well. Let's stop doing this self-righteous. It sounds real good on Facebook. It sounds real good on Twitter and Instagram. You know, we do all this talk about, I'm not worried about nobody but me. And I'm just keeping my eyes forward. 1, you're being dishonest. And 2, if you're being serious, you're playing the game all wrong. Because we've got to address the fact, hear me, that we've been talking all our life and saying that experience is the best teacher. But what I want you to make sure you're adding to that equation is that sometimes the experience of others is the best teacher. Let me help you. I don't have to touch the hot stove and see that the hot stove will burn me if I have an opportunity to look back and see somebody else touch it. How foolish would I be to then say, well, you know, that was them and I got to run my own race. I got to touch it too to see what happens. No. I'm going to let your experience be my teacher. Because here, get this. You got to know in part what other people are doing in your sphere. Because check this out. Their losses should be your lessons. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? Get this, guys. You've got to know who else is in the similar sphere of influence that you're in because their losses should be your lessons. You have to look and research what your competitors are doing. You have to research what your competitors have built. You have to research your competitors' standards. You've got to research your competitors' processes because you can learn from anybody. Some of you, I can hear you now. Well, no, I'm leading my industry. That's fine. See what the runner-up is doing. Hear what I'm saying to you. Hear what I'm saying to you. Now, let's go a little bit deeper here for a moment because in knowing your competition, you have to realize that for a brand to be effective, it needs to be easy for consumers to recognize and remember. And one of the reasons it's so important that you know what others that are doing similar things, it's important you know what they're doing and how they're doing it, is because you want to try to avoid bleed over as much as you can, right? You want to be able to avoid bleed over as much as you can, and you cannot do that if you're not aware of what other people are doing. Now, I want to give you this principle in this whole concept of knowing your competition because many of you know I'm a sociology major. And one of the things that I've learned is that people, check this out, guys, people are both neophobic and neophilic at the same time. All right. What that means is, please get this because I promise you this will help you. This was a major key for me as we've grown. All right. You got to understand that people are neophobic and neophilic at the same time, which means they both love something new and they're scared of something new at the same time. Hear me. Your customer, the people that you want to buy your book, show up to your church, book you, hire you to come speak, hire you to consult, hire you to take pictures, whatever you do, they have both a love and a fear of new, and they have it at the same time. Tell me what I know. Let's put it in practice. What does that look like? What does that mean? What that means is people will constantly complain about stuff being the same. And, oh, we need something new and we need something different. We need something and we need a change. People love to have that conversation until a new thing come along. Then all of a sudden, I can't trust this. I don't know what this is. This is making me uncomfortable. This is giving me anxiety. So here's the principle that I need you to understand. It's the principle, get this, M-A-Y-A. It's the Maya principle. You know what Maya stands for? Maya stands for most advanced yet acceptable. Okay? I'm trying to help somebody right here. Most advanced yet acceptable, which means, check this out, talking about knowing your competition, talking about knowing who else does what you do. You've got to learn, if you're going to grow, how to posture what it is that you have, how to posture what it is that you do in a context and in a framework, here it is, that is most advanced yet acceptable. Which means you've got to posture it as something that's unlike what we've ever seen before. Here's the challenge. This is unlike anything you've ever witnessed. However, it's acceptable because it'll put you in mind of something else. Okay, let me show you what this looks like. Let's use Carvana as an example, okay? Many of us have become familiar with the brand that is Carvana. It's basically the future of how we're going to buy cars. It's almost like a vending machine for cars. You can order on your phone. You can order online. You don't even have to see the car. You can get it and you can customize it the way you want. I want one with this many miles. I want this color interior. I want this kind of mileage on it, da 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 da. This was a advanced concept, okay? This was a concept that was formed. Many people up until then had the idea, you can't just buy a car off a phone, sight unseen. That's how you get a limit. You got to go, you got to kick the tires, right? Got to check it out. Got to sit in and see how it feels. Now, one of the things that the pitch for Carvana contained, hear me, is a reference to something that people could understand. So you know what they said about Carvana? They said Carvana is like Netflix for cars. Now, immediately, you just understood and you got a visual of what I'm saying. Why? Because the idea of buying a car through a phone is advanced. That's different. But it's acceptable because I do have a frame of reference for what that looks like. It's the same way. Remember when we used to go to Blockbuster? Right? Had to pick up the blue and white box and turn it over, read the description of the movie. Had to leave your house. Some of y'all are like, what? Blockbuster? What is that? Just, you're too young. It's okay. You Google it. Go do your history, right? But now you can sit on your phone in a restaurant and you can just scroll through titles, go through categories. You don't have to leave your house. It's an advanced concept, but it's acceptable. So what you got to understand, the reason that it's so important that you know who your competitors are is because it's important that you know how to differentiate yourself from what everybody else is doing while also learning the lessons from their losses. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Here's number three. Here's number three. This one is very important. Get this one, guys. Number three, please hear me. You've got to determine, here's the key word here, determine who, please don't miss that, who you are for. You want to grow? No, seriously, you want to grow? You must stop and determine not just what do I do, my purpose, not just who else is in my sphere, who else is in my field. I've got to determine who I'm for, okay? Now, this is so important. This is so important because really the foundation for growth is determining who your target audience is. right? The foundation for growth is identifying and be real, hear me, about who you want to grow with. Let me just go ahead and attack it right here. You cannot be for everybody. Please hear me. I cannot tell you how many people, how many conference hosts, how many ministers, how many business owners, entrepreneurs I've talked to over the years. And when I ask them the question, who are you for? What is your target audience? I can't tell you how many times I got the answer, oh, we for everybody. No, you're not. Let me help you. Number one, you're not for everybody because you're not built to handle everybody's issues. Hear me. You're not qualified to speak to everybody's situation. So I know typically we present that answer in a kind of deep, pious way. We've got this kind of superhero God complex. I'm just a savior to my entire market. No, the truth is, oftentimes that answer is a cop-out because we have not taken the time to investigate and really target who we're for. You guys hear what I'm saying? Now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this because even in faith, the Bible says that God is not willing that any should perish. And you know what he has in place to support that truth? This is why he has more than one preacher. Why? Because he understands that no matter how great of a preacher you are, you can't reach everybody. Go to your Bible. Paul was awesome, but so was Peter. And they had two different audiences. One was for the Jews, one was for the Gentiles. Why? Because their experience, their perspective, their views, their insight, their history equipped them to minister and to serve a particular demographic. Now, let's take them out of the equation. Let's use you for a moment. The question is, who have your experiences prepared you to help? Think about this. Who has your story postured you to pour into? Because let me help you. I'm sorry. I don't care how much you talk about. You can put it on your vision board. You do all of that. You will not grow until you identify who you are for. Hear me? You got to determine who are the people that I'm here to reach. Who are the people that I'm here to serve? Okay? Now, here's the key. You got to know who you're for because you got to tailor your mission and your message to meet their exact needs. Some of you are slowing your growth down because you're too busy trying to reach everybody. And so this week, here's the truth. I hate to say it, but here's the truth. Some of you can't grow because people don't know which you they're going to get on what day. Because this day, you're trying to be young, you're trying to be hip. I'm trying to reach millennials, okay? So now you done stuffed yourself in some skinny jeans. You done cut your knees out. You know you got poor circulation in your legs anyway, okay? Come on. But today, I saw somebody else, and they're trying to reach millennials, and this is how they do it, so I got to do it this way. Then the next week, you're trying to reach couples. Then the next week, you're trying to reach children and teens. Who are you for? Because your messaging has to be crafted to meet the needs of the group that you're actually for. Now, here's the key. The key is if you're going to really determine who you're for, let's see this. Let's see this. You must be specific. Okay? You must be specific. Gone are the days of being broad and general. You've got to uniquely and specifically detail and target, hear me, the behaviors and the lifestyle of your target customer. No, seriously, some of you, I need you to get this, and I need you to get this very, very, very clearly, because one of the things we do with YLC is we have a brand profile, right? We have a customer profile of who this conference is for. I'm really trying to give you some insight. Some of you already know, just brace yourself because some of you are going to say, oh, that's discriminatory and that's not fair. You can feel that way if you want to, but I'm trying to tell you, this is what you got to do if you want to grow. For example, you can't keep saying, well, who is your business for? Who is your audience? Who are you trying to reach? Well, we just want to reach, we want to reach moms. We want to reach mothers. That's not going to work. You've got to get specific to the point where you say, we want to reach single moms who work full-time from home. Now that's an audience. That's an audience. You can't just say, who do you want to reach? We want to reach millennials. No, that's not going to cut it. You need to say, we want to reach upwardly mobile adults between the ages of 25 and 40 who are seeking to advance their career. Now you've got an audience. So you guys hear the difference? You can't just say, we're targeting college kids. We're here for college kids. No, because what you're doing unintentionally is you're insulting your audience by assuming that everybody in that general pool thinks the same way, looks the same way, has the same perspective, and you cannot connect with people that you've minimized and boxed in. Hear what I'm saying to you? You don't want college kids. You want to say, we want college students who are studying abroad in Europe during the summer. Okay, now you got a niche audience. Okay? Who are you trying to hire? Anybody that needs a job. First of all, you will soon be out of business if your hiring criteria is anybody that needs a job. Okay? They're going to steal all your staplers. Y'all don't hear what I'm saying? They're going to take all your markers. You ain't going to never have no rubber bands in the office. You got to be more specific. We're looking to hire retirees who are looking to return to the workforce in an executive position. Okay, now we got something that we can work with, because you must determine who you are for. Now, one of the things that we have, I was saying a moment ago, is that we have a profile of our ideal registrant. I'll speak in terms again of Young Leaders Conference, because that's the example that I'm most intimately acquainted with, and that's my largest source of credibility on the subject of growth. From the moment we've started, we've had an ideal customer profile. Now, let me help you put your customer profile together. Let's go to work here. Here are a few things that you have to really, really consider if you're going to have a picture of your ideal customer. Number one, let's go to work here. Number one, let's do it this way. Customer profile, okay? Number one, age. Let's get real specific here. You got to know their age. How old is your ideal customer? You cannot grow if you don't know who you're for. Age, okay? Number two, gender. Some of you, let me help you. Some of you can't grow because you're speaking to the wrong gender. Some of us, let's be honest, God has given you a phenomenal idea for a women's conference or for a women's ministry, using this as an example. Some, let's go the other way. Some, God has given you a great idea for a men's conference, for a men's ministry. But sometimes, let's say, out of maybe being a little bit too ambitious, or maybe not really keying into what God's trying to get us to do, we say, I don't want to be limited to just women. I don't want to be boxed in to just men. I want to be for everybody. And we're not realizing that our growth, hear me well, our growth hinges on our willingness to be specific. Hear me. This is why I've literally helped and coached people. Several examples come to mind. I've had people, some of my sisters in ministry, they'll say, help me out because I want to see more men show up at our events. I want to see more men. And I say, okay, well, send me your stuff. Send me your content. Send me your branding and your packaging. And it doesn't take me long to see why men are not coming. Because as soon as I open the thing, I've got pink and purple butterflies. Y'all don't like the way I'm talking. Okay. I've got nothing but pictures of women on the website. So what I'm saying is, in my branding, I'm communicating this is not a safe space for men, or this is not a zone that men are welcome in. And look, flip it. It works the same way for women. It works the same way for men. All right. So you have to be clear in identifying, I want to grow. In your customer profile, are you for men? Are you for women? Are you for children? Are you for millennials? Are you for baby boomers? Hear me? Here's another way that you identify your customer profile. Location. You've heard this real estate term all your life. Location, location, location. All right? Some of us cannot grow. Hear me. Some of us can't grow because we've got the right oil, but the wrong soil. Hear me? Some of us can't grow because we are in cities. You better hear what I'm saying to you. We are in markets. We are in places that we allow competition to call us to instead of purpose. You can't just say, I'm going to start a business in this city because that's where everybody else is. Could it be that the fact everybody else is there is a sign that you need to zig where they have zagged? You determine your customer profile by examining location. Where does your ideal customer live? No, seriously. I need you to be specific. What kind of house does your ideal customer live in? How many bedrooms does it have? What kind of car do they drive? What kind of grocery stores do they have in the neighborhood that your customer lives in? Do they have, do all the people in that neighborhood, do they do their shopping at the grocery store? Or do they do their shopping at the gas station, the convenience store? Or does your customer live in a neighborhood where they have Whole Foods and Trader Joe's? Hear what I'm saying to you? I'm serious. I need you to be this specific. The neighborhood, close your eyes. Keep listening to the audio. Close your eyes and visualize your ideal customer, your ideal client. The neighborhood they live in, is there a gun store, a check cashing place, and a liquor store in every corner? Or do they have Starbucks? And you understand what I'm saying to you? Identify the location. Here's a big one. Some of you are not going to like it, but you need to hear it. Here's a big way to identify your customer profile. Income. I'm going to circle that one. You're not serious about growing if you're not willing to identify your target audience, and you're not willing to identify your target audience if you're not willing to be honest about what kind of income bracket they're in. Some of you, this is a major one here, because some of you are saying, this is my target audience, but you have completely priced yourself and your services out of their range. Okay, let's come here, YLC. I cannot say that we are a conference for millennials and for people under a certain age primarily, and then put the registration at a price point that audience can't reach. Now, let's be very honest. For what you get at Young Leaders Conference for 3 days, the speakers that we expose you to, the caliber of the venue, the level of excellence that we operate in, we could legitimately, justifiably charge $3,000 for a seat. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what multimillionaire coaches have told me when they tried to explain to me how crazy I was. I had people tell me, Mark, how are you giving this away for $125? How are you going to pay bills and make stuff work? But here's the challenge. I got to find a way to make it work, because the people that need it can't afford where it really should be. So I have to adjust the price point to meet, here it is, the income level of my customer profile. Follow what I'm saying to you. Let me give you another one. Number 5, education level. Let me be clear. This is not to be discriminatory, okay? This is not to say you can't, not at all. But you got to be clear on who your target is. Now, whenever you aim at a target, let's use a bullseye for example. We know that the center is what we're trying to get. But as long as I land on the board, I still get some points. Follow me? So the bullseye might be your target audience, but you got to realize you're going to attract people that are on the periphery of whatever that target audience is. But it still requires you to be clear on, this is who I'm for. This is who I'm for. This is who my brand, my business, my ministry has been uniquely postured and positioned to serve. You guys hear what I'm saying to you? Let's go a little bit deeper here, because I really, really, really need you to hear this part. To get even more definition for your ideal customer profile, you got to go deeper than just age. Age is important. How old are the people I'm here for? Because how I package everything is determined by their sensibilities. You can't grow. Let me stay there on age. You cannot grow. Let's use church for an example. You cannot grow a church and say, this church is going to reach millennials, and this church is here. We're going to be a campus ministry. You cannot do that and then build all of your customs and culture points around the sensibilities of people in their 60s. Follow what I'm saying? It's more than just gender. Are we for men or are we for women? It's more than just location. This is where my audience lives. It's more than just income. It's more than just education level. You got to go deeper if you really want to grow and connect with your target audience. You got to go deeper. What are their motivations? Okay, this is too good not to make sure you guys get this. Let's go further. motivations. Okay, motivations. What are their goals? What are their goals? What are their, please don't miss this one. This one, we've gotten thousands of registrants off of an understanding of this point right here. Not just their goals, what are their pain points? When I talk about a pain point, what that speaks to is what are the issues or the problems in their life that they lose sleep about? Hear me. What are the things that they worry about that keeps them from being productive? If you can find a way to identify your audience's pain points, here's what you then do. Come here. You want to grow? Here's what you do. You've identified their pain points and you offer them a solution to the pain that they're feeling. You become the neighborhood hope dealer. Follow me? But you got to be clear on your audience's pain points. Here's another one. Here's another one. Who is my target audience's influencers right now, today? They don't know me yet. They don't know that they need me yet. But the question is, who currently has influence on their decisions? Is Beyonce an influence? Is Bishop T.D. Jakes an influence on them? Is Kevin Hart an influence on them? Steve Harvey, right? Marvin Winans, whatever your field is, who are the people that currently influence them? Because guess what? They're going to leave breadcrumbs on how you need to influence them. And then additionally, let me give you this one. Talk about your target audience. What are their current brand affinities? Okay? The people that you've been called to reach, the people that you have determined, this is my target audience. This is who I'm here for. Who are the brands or what are the brands that currently attract and draw their attention? If you're trying to sell a Ford truck to people that want a Mercedes sedan, you got a disconnect that you got to reconcile. Hear me? What are the brands that currently have weight in their mind? Identifying your target audience, hear me, for your services or products is really an exercise, I promise you, that will benefit all areas of your growth process. Let me just stop you here. Knowing and discovering your purpose is great. Knowing who your competition is great. But these are both moot if you don't determine who you're for. Okay? Who is it? Now, come on, take your ego out of the equation. Gotta say this, because a lot of us, the reason we're not willing to be specific, I hate to say it, but let's tell the truth. The reason a lot of us are not willing to be specific is because we've got an ego problem and we feel that we are God's gift to humanity. And whatever you need, not God's got it, whatever you need, I got it. You're struggling with this, I can help you with that. You're struggling with this, I can help you with that. You don't know how to do this, I can help you with that. And what I need you to understand is that you cannot grow until you're willing to be specific about who you're actually credible with. Some of us are wasting time, energy, resources because we won't be honest about the fact we don't have as much pull as we think we do. Follow what I'm saying to you? I'm very clear. You're watching this masterclass right now. You want to talk about pull? The fact that you're watching this is proof of pull. Think about that. I pulled you into this masterclass. I had enough credibility. I had enough credentials, a long enough resume, whatever it is, to make you say, let me sign up to hear what he got to say. Now, here's where the integrity and the honesty piece comes in. I recognize that I don't have right now the pull I need to get everybody. You had enough prophetic insight to see now, that this class is going to bless you. Follow me? But you have to be honest about who you have pull with. And you can't do that until you're honest about who you actually are. I'm wrapping up here. I hope you guys are getting something. We're going to talk about more in Growth 201. We're going to go a little bit deeper, but I got more stuff for you in this one because I think it's important. Number one, that you discover your purpose. This is what I do. And more importantly, this is why I do it. I think it's important that you know your competition. In fact, I know it's crucial. You cannot grow if you don't know who's growing next to you. Okay? You cannot grow if you don't know who's growing next to you. Number three, you got to determine who you are for, right? Stop this thing. I'm just for everybody. I'm whosoever will, let them come. You are not Jesus. I know you know him. I know you've tried him and he's all right, but you are not him. And here's the crazy thing. As much God in the flesh as he is, there are still people that won't even choose him. Do you hear what I said? God is God, okay? Alpha, Omega, omniscient, omnipresent, the whole nine. And there are still people that look at God and say, I'm good. What makes you think you are going to be the answer to everybody? Tell the truth. You don't like you all the time. You expect everybody else to like you all the time? No. Know who you're for and be honest about it. But here's a fourth one that I want to give you right now. Here's a fourth one I want to give you right now. And this one is huge. This one is huge. This one is huge. You want to grow. I can't exaggerate the importance of this one. If you want to grow, you got to learn, get this, how to tell a story. Now, let me be honest with you. I grew up, and it was the way my brother and sister and I were raised. Our parents told us, and some of you will relate to this, our parents told us that we were not allowed to say certain words, okay? I'm certainly not even talking about those 4-letter words, but there was a 3-letter word that we knew from an early age we were not allowed to say. And that 3-letter word was lie, okay? We were not allowed to call anybody a liar. We were not allowed to say, so you lied. No, because they told us those are fighting words. So here's what we were taught. Whenever somebody says something that's not true, whenever somebody says something that is clearly inaccurate and they're saying it with the intention to deceive, you were to lift the fact that they are, here it is, telling a story. Okay? They're storytelling. Okay? Somehow that's less offensive than liar. Amen. Amen. Whatever. But because of that, I've always thought of telling stories as a bad thing, right? But let me help you. When it comes to growing your brand, growing your business, your vision, whatever it is, you've got to learn how to become a master storyteller. The reason, let's go here again. The reason you're in this masterclass now is because I know how to tell a story. Let me help you. Let's take the mystery out of it. The reason we had 5,000 people in 2019 at the Young Leaders Conference, 5 presidential candidates, $2 million worth of medical debt paid off. The reason in 2020 we're going to have 8,000 people. We're in an arena. We're in a convention center at the same time. We've got all these hotels shut down. The reason for that, let's simplify it to the lowest common denominator, is because of our ability to tell a story. Now, let's be honest. Storytelling is one of the most effective forms of communication known to man. Do you know, let's go Old New Testament. Do you know that one of the things that made Jesus such an effective communicator is that he told stories? Now, we call them parables. But what's a parable? A parable is a story. Let me help you. You are not willing to grow or not ready to grow if you don't know how, and if you don't sit down and come up with a plan and a process to put your business, your brand, your mission, your ministry in story form. Hear me. Nothing causes people to stop and pay attention quite like a story does, especially a story in the arms or in the hands of someone that knows how to tell it. I'm telling you what I know. Now, this part of the growth process goes beyond your logo. It goes beyond your tagline. It goes beyond the colors of your website. We'll talk about all that stuff in another class. It goes beyond all of that. The storytelling element, listen, this is what defines who you are. We, your customers, your audience, we know who you are by your story. Not only does it tell us who you are, it tells us what you offer. Your story. It shows us, hear me, why people should care, because it's your story. Okay. Now I need you to get this. I need you to get this. I need you to get this. I need you to get this real clear, because guess what? Your story is what puts you on a human level with your customer base. Keep in mind, all this branding stuff we talk about and all this, websites and forums and charts and competitors and mission statements and vision, all that's great, but none of that has the personal human touch like your story does. Your story is what puts you on a human level with your customers. But here's what else your story does. Your story helps you make an emotional connection. Hear me. Your story helps you make an emotional connection. You know why I always talk about 50 to 5,000, and after in a few months we'll be talking about 50 to 8,000. All of that. Next year we'll be saying 50 to 12,000. Whatever it is. The reason I keep saying that is because, watch this. Please hear me. It connects with you on an emotional level. Because guess what? All of us want to have a growth story. There are people, listen, there are people that are motivated by 50 to 5,000 that don't even host a conference. Why? Because my story is not about a conference. My story is about a human emotional connection that everybody can get their hands on. I'm helping you right now if you really hear what I'm saying to you. Okay? You've got to learn how to tell a story, because it is what makes you human. It's what allows you to make an emotional connection. Okay. Now, what this means is this. It means that the language you use in telling your story, hear me, should be understood immediately while striking an emotional chord. All right, let's go all the way there. This is free game right now. We always talk about impulse buying in a negative sense. Think about this. We talk about impulse buying in a negative sense because we only ever talk about impulse buying from the posture of the one spending the money. Flip it around. You're an entrepreneur. Whatever you do, whatever field you're in, you have a product that you're trying to get out there. Flip it around. Impulse buying, if you're selling something, is your best friend. Y'all not hearing what I'm saying. I'm trying to help somebody grow here. You want to be able to put people in a position where they buy impulsively. How do you do that? You have to make an emotional connection. Now, again, this applies if you have a product, but we're using this as an understanding. If you have a product that's actually quality, that will actually help people's lives, that will actually put people in a better position when they're done with you than they were when they started, you should have every intention of trying to connect in a way that makes people want to respond emotionally. Stop telling yourself that's a bad thing. If you have something that people need, you want them to respond emotionally. Why? Don't miss this. Because when people become emotional about what you do, they will defend what you do. They'll fight for what you'll do. They'll talk about what you do. They'll share what you do. That's how you turn customers into sales reps. Hear me? You turn them into sales reps by making sure they have an emotional experience with you. And the ability to have an emotional connection with people is directly connected to the story that you tell. Everybody loves a story because everybody sees themselves as the central figure. So your story might be a story of perseverance. I need you, think about this, I need you to be specific in terms of your customer profile, but I need you to be general in terms of your story. Do you understand the difference there? I need you to be specific about who you're for, who you're trying to reach, but I need you to be general in the story that you tell, because the story that you tell has to have big picture implications. This is a story of perseverance. This is a David and Goliath story. Young Leaders Conference is a David and Goliath story. We're the little engine that could. And there are people that don't host conferences, but they can relate to being an underdog. They can relate to having no help. That's an emotional connection that I can make with people. When I get up and say, hey, listen, we started this with no money, with no help, with no backing from any large groups. We started with a budget of $2,100, and today our budget is several $1,000,000. Nobody said we could do it, but we did it because God helped us. There are people that are getting excited right now. Say, man, if they could grow like that, we can grow like that. Different fields, different audiences, but a story, check this out, stories transcend industries. Let me write that down. Stories transcend industries. Please hear that. Well, I mean, I don't know if my story will connect. Stories transcend industries. Stories transcend color lines. We're right now at the time of this recording. I don't know when you'll discover it, but at the time of this recording, we are in a very, very, very heated and contentious presidential election. Do you know what the speakers or the candidates that are doing the best in the debates are able to do? The ones that are doing the best in the polls, in the debates, on the campaign trail are the ones that know how to tell a story. President Donald Trump, let's be very honest, regardless of how you feel about him, and I don't want to project my feelings on you. I have very strong feelings, but regardless of how you feel about him, what you will never be able to take away is the man knows how to tell a story. How else can you justify being a billionaire that grew up with money? How do you posture that as a man that the poorest of the poor who have never had money defend and see as their candidate? There's no relation, there's no connection, other than the fact that he knows how to tell a story that transcends industry and status. The story that he told to get into the White House was a story of injustice, and we have something being taken from us, and we need to be afraid of these people, and they are the enemy, and we got to do something to make this country great again. You got a billionaire who grew up with money that connected with the poorest of the working class, even though they have nothing in common other than the fact that their stories match. You know what? I feel like something's been taken from me too. I feel like I'm missing out on something too. I feel like I need to take my control and my power back. Stories make emotional connections, and they humanize you in the eyes of your customer. If you want to grow, let's wrap this up. If you want to grow, you got to discover purpose. And I'm not saying that in a generic, general, cookie cutter way. No. You have to be intentional about discovering and determining not only what do I do, but why am I doing it? Because again, all of these are connected. Every last one of them. You cannot have one of them without the other. By discovering what you do and why you do it, you then have to know your competition, because you have to be able to differentiate you from them. Okay? Then have to determine who you're for. This is who I serve. This is who I'm called to. This is who I'm going to impact and make a difference with. But then you got to be able to take all of this and put it in storybook form. Once upon a time, there was a little conference that could. People wrote them off. People said they'd never grow. People said you don't have the credibility, you don't have the weight and the influence. Oh, but through hard work and determination, that little conference that was written off. I can tell you this story all day long. If I tell it right, I'll cry, and I know you'll cry. All right, got to know how to tell a story, because stories transcend industries. Okay, you got to know your competition, and you got to remember that people want what's most advanced yet acceptable. They are neophilic and neophobic at the same time. I want new, but new is scary, so you got to take me slow. Okay? Have to be clear on these things, and I promise you, this is Growth 101. We got a lot more we're going to get into next time, but if you are serious about growth, make sure you remember these things, and I promise you, you are on the path to growth. I'll see you in the next session.